Welcome to another video from the Global Geopolitics channel. Today, we begin exploring the history of Israel. Long before the modern state, this land was known by many names. It was a crossroads of empires, faiths, and ancient kingdoms struggling to survive in a narrow corridor between continents. According to tradition, ancient Israelite kingdoms emerged here, centered in Jerusalem. Their power was limited, but their spiritual legacy would outlast empires far stronger than themselves. But small kingdoms rarely survive alone. Assyrian and Babylonian armies would eventually sweep through the region, dismantling political autonomy and forcing exile upon its people. Exile reshaped identity. Scattered across foreign lands, the Jewish people preserved memory through scripture, ritual, and law, transforming loss into spiritual continuity. Centuries later, under Roman rule, tension once again exploded. Revolt met overwhelming force, and Jerusalem would face destruction on a scale that reshaped Jewish history permanently. After the destruction of the Second Temple, dispersion intensified. Jewish communities stretched across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, adapting to foreign rule while holding on to collective memory. Meanwhile, the land itself passed between empires: Byzantine, Islamic caliphates, Crusaders, and Ottomans, each layer adding complexity to an already contested geography. By the 19th century, nationalism reshaped Europe. Among Jewish intellectuals facing persecution, a political movement emerged: Zionism, arguing for a return to ancestral land. Small waves of Jewish immigrants began arriving in Ottoman Palestine. They purchased land, built agricultural settlements, and slowly altered the demographic balance of the region. As Jewish immigration increased in the early 20th century, tensions quietly deepened. Land purchases and new settlements reshaped local economies, creating uncertainty and resentment among segments of the Arab population. Then came the First World War. The Ottoman Empire collapsed and British forces entered Jerusalem, promising new political arrangements that would redefine the future of the land. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration expressed British support for a Jewish national home in Palestine. To some, it was hope. To others, it signaled dispossession. Under the British mandate, immigration accelerated. Tel Aviv expanded from sand dunes into a growing urban center, symbolizing both ambition and rising political tension. As demographics shifted, communal violence erupted. Riots in the 1920s and 30s deepened mistrust, making coexistence increasingly fragile under British administration. Between 1936 and 1939, the Arab Revolt targeted both British authority and Jewish immigration. The land entered a prolonged cycle of repression, retaliation, and political paralysis. Meanwhile, in Europe, anti-Semitism intensified. What began as discrimination would soon become catastrophe on an unimaginable scale, altering global attitudes toward Jewish statehood. The Holocaust destroyed 6 million Jewish lives. Survivors emerged displaced, traumatized, and without homes, intensifying demands for a sovereign refuge. International sympathy grew, but political solution remained elusive. Britain, exhausted and facing violence in Palestine, prepared to withdraw from the mandate. In 1947, the United Nations proposed partition: 2 states, one Jewish and one Arab. The decision would ignite celebration, rejection, and the final descent into war. After the United Nations vote, violence erupted almost immediately. What began as political disagreement quickly descended into civil war between Jewish and Arab communities inside mandatory Palestine. Roadways became battlegrounds. Convoys were ambushed, neighborhoods isolated, and trust between communities collapsed under the pressure of fear and retaliation. In Jerusalem, siege conditions intensified. Food and water shortages threatened civilian survival as both sides fought for control of the city's narrow corridors. As British forces prepared to leave, authority evaporated. Armed militias on both sides raced to secure strategic positions before the mandate officially ended. On May 14, 1948, Jewish leaders gathered in Tel Aviv. Within a modest hall, they prepared to declare independence, knowing war would follow within hours. The State of Israel was proclaimed. Celebrations erupted in some streets, but in neighboring capitals, armies mobilized for invasion. Within hours, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq launched coordinated attacks. The regional war had begun. Israel faced invasion on multiple fronts simultaneously. Israel's early army was improvised and under-equipped. Volunteers, many recent Holocaust survivors, now found themselves fighting for the survival of a newborn state. Battles raged across Galilee, the coastal plain, and the Negev desert. Casualties mounted as control of territory shifted repeatedly in brutal engagements. By early 1949, armistice lines were drawn. Israel had survived, and even expanded beyond the UN partition borders. But survival came at immense human cost. The war left hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs displaced. Many fled combat zones, others were expelled. Refugee camps formed across Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, and beyond. At the same time, Jewish refugees from Arab countries began arriving in Israel, fleeing hostility and expulsion across the Middle East and North Africa. Israel absorbed massive immigration despite limited resources. Tent cities and transit camps emerged, testing the young state's economic and social capacity. Armistice agreements ended open warfare, but no comprehensive peace followed. Borders remained contested, and hostility lingered across every frontier. Cross-border raids and retaliations soon followed. Each incident deepened mistrust and reinforced the sense that the conflict was not over, only paused. Regionally, Israel stood isolated. Most neighboring states refused recognition, framing the new country as temporary and illegitimate. Yet internally, Israel consolidated institutions, building a parliament, a unified army, and a centralized administration under constant pressure. By the early 1950s, Israel had survived its first existential test. But survival did not mean stability. The region remained volatile, and another war was already taking shape.
Most people watch the world. We decode it. If you want to see more videos like this, like, share, and subscribe. Global Geopolitics. We go beyond the obvious.